This small comparison video is for my fellow manga readers who use e-readers or are considering using an e-reader. This is my Boox Color Ghost 7 Gen 1 because to my understanding there is recently a Gen 2. I was gifted Gen 1 by my dad in November of 2024 as a birthday gift, and then for the holiday season of 2025 I got again from my dad the Kindle Colorsoft, the latest 32 gigabyte edition. So to start, I would say that if you've never been a part of the Kindle ecosystem or want to get away from the Kindle ecosystem, you either have Android or are familiar with Android and you want access to more apps and both devices are full price, you are going to get more for your money if you get the Boox Color Go 7. Because I believe at full price, at least Generation 1 is about almost $30 USD cheaper than a Kindle Colorsoft. I believe it's $250 prior to tax, and then USD. And then I believe at full price, the Kindle Colorsoft 32 gig edition is $279 when not on sale. The Boox Go Color 7 starts at 64 gigabytes, so already that is more space. But even though there are many advantages to the Boox Color Go 7, as I have used my Kindle more and I find myself gravitating towards it more, I think partly because I got the Kindle Colorsoft on eBay for about $187 or $190, I believe. I feel it works best for my purposes because even though this is the first Kindle I have had in over 10 years, I had the very, very original Kindle back in the day when it first released back when I was in college. I would often read my manga via the Kindle app, usually on my iPad or even on my computer. So I am a part of the Kindle ebook system, and so that's why the other device I have is a Boox because it runs on Android, and with a Kobo, if I had considered it, I would lose access to my Kindle Books. So the main reason I find myself, at least for my manga, gravitating more towards the Kindle over the Boox, even though with my Boox I can read my NetGalley reads, I can read straight from the Viz app, for example, whereas I can't do that on the Kindle. I have to only read my Kindle-based manga, is that out of the box, the Kindle is easier to deal with. You don't have to mess around with so many settings. To get the color and saturation that you see here on my Boox Color Go 7, it took me about a month or so of tinkering around with the device and things like that to get to flash warning for anyone who suffers headaches, migraines, seizures, or any other related ailments that flashing may cause you any grievance. Because the devices are constantly refreshing, you will see some flashes during this video. So, slight spoilers for Volume 4. I am going to show up until the cover of the first chapter that's featured in Volume 4. So, I find, even though it's not showing as much as usual in the example right now, that there's a lot of color bleeding when I'm reading my manga on my books. And so you'll see like a lot of pinks or yellows just going from one page to another when I'm reading on my books. Of course, now that I'm making this video, it wants to behave itself. But that's not something I usually have to deal with on my Kindle. And sometimes dealing with that on the books, I get really annoyed. Whereas on the Kindle, at least in the 4 months that I've had it, almost 5, that never happens from one page to another in as visible a fashion, and certainly not in as visible a fashion as it happens on the Boox device. So, for example, I more constantly find myself having to hit the manual refresh button on my books, and in my humble opinion, the transition from one page to another on the Kindle is much smoother, whereas oftentimes I find it to be a little laggy on the Boox device. This is the Kindle app within the Boox device, just so that viewers can be aware that I am using the designated Kindle app on the Boox device as the point of comparison. One moment, I'm going to open up another manga very quickly just to see if the color bleeding issue that I previously spoke about is more visible with another manga. One moment. Turning to volume 1 of, slight spoilers for volume 1 of Choking on Love with the example page I am showing, but turning several pages into volume 1, I think you can better see the example of what I can only think to refer to as e-ink color bleeding in my Boox Color Go 7 versus the lack thereof in the Kindle Colorsoft. So this is with the highest, most comfortable settings available, in my opinion, for my usage on my Boox Color Go 7, whereas compared to how much you have to tinker with settings like brightness, warmth, refresh rate, etc. on the books, the Kindle settings are pretty straightforward. I just put the brightness level and the warmth / temperature level, and at least that I know of, I didn't have to decide on a refresh rate. And like I said, it's pretty smooth and simple when I have to turn pages either forward or backward in terms of how crisp it looks. And like I said, at least in my humble opinion, it tends to be laggy or sluggish on my Boox Color Go 7. Now, of course, like any piece of tech, it really depends on what your needs are in an e-reader. If you want the most for your money, the most versatility, because you can use several apps, you're not locked in to the Kindle e-system, you can use your Viz app. For anyone who has the Manga app or any other reading apps, you can use Libby straight from your device. My local library system doesn't use Hoopla, but if Hoopla is supported by Android, you can also use it on your books, whereas with the actual Kindle device, you are locked into the Kindle book buying ecosystem. Again, I will say if you buy it full price, the books might be more suitable for your needs. The Boox Color Go 7, whereas the full price of the Kindle Colorsoft, the 32 gig edition, which is what I have, when not on sale, is $279 USD. Prior to owning these two devices, what I typically used to read my ebooks was either, depending on what my needs were, my computer or my iPad mini, which I do sometimes still use my iPad mini if I want like full undiluted color for webtoons and manhwa, because in terms of what color can do for e-ink, there are still, of course, limitations. But because I would struggle, especially as an insomniac at night, reading on my iPad screen, I knew that for my typical day-to-day, an e-ink color screen would be what's best for my eyes. So that is why I got these devices. They both have their pros and cons at the end of the day, but I think it comes down to, and it depends on the reader, of course, budget and versatility versus potential ease of use and potentially getting locked into an ecosystem. So you have to decide what the pros and cons are. For you as a reader, I'm specifically comparing the manga reading experience on the two devices because I find no big difference between the novel reading experiences between the two devices. I find novel reading to be very smooth. For example, one of the last novels that I read on across both devices was the Elsewhere Express and the Sun and the Star Maker, which I enjoyed. The Elsewhere Express. The Sun and the Star Maker is probably a 2.5 for me, but the novel reading experience, I would say, is very similar across the two devices. From a very picky sort of standpoint, the Boox has a physical turn page button. The Kindle Colorsoft does not. If that is a deal breaker for you, that is something to keep in mind. I don't mind personally either way because I tend to just move the page along with my hand, but I've noticed that for some e-reader users, that is a big note for them. So again, it comes down to versatility and customization ability for the Boox Color Go 7, and whether or not you personally as a reader, if having to tinker with the device a lot to get it just right for your user needs is something you want to have to deal with, or for the most part, would you rather have something that's very straight out the box, usable for your needs with very little customization and tinkering having to be done in order to enjoy your manga or any other reads that you might partake in on the device.